Hello there and welcome to my guide for painting the Goremongers kill team for Warhammer 40,000 kill team. As you can see, first thing I've done is spray them with some matte black spray from Colourforge. Then I'm going to use Eshin Grey and I'll dry brush that onto all the areas that will eventually be black. And this will be followed by a second dry brush, but this time we're going to be using Mechanicus Standard Grey. After that we'll start working on the silver, and for that we're going to use some lead belcher. And then we'll use Dryad Bark to paint any straps or holsters. Then everything will receive a wash with some Nuln Oil. Once our wash has dried, we're then going to use some Gothor Brown to highlight any pouches and holsters. And then we'll start working on the skin. For the lighter skin, I'm going to start with Bugman's Glow. And for any darker skin, I'm going to start with Catachan Flesh. And all that skin will receive a wash with some Reichland Flesh Shade. Once our wash is dried, we're going to use a 50-50 mix of Bugman's Glow and Cadian Flesh Tone. This will be followed by Cadian Flesh Tone just by itself. And then finally a 50-50 mix of Cadian Flesh Tone and Kislev Flesh. For the darker skin, we're going to use some Blood Reaver Flesh. And this will be followed by a 50-50 mix of Blood Reaver Flesh and Knight's Quester Flesh. Then for any metal bolts or scars, I'm going to use a little bit of Carroburg Crimson. Then we're going to paint all of the straps on the weapons with some Gal Vorbak Red, which will get washed with some Nuln Oil. And while that dries, I'm going to use some Screaming Bell to paint any areas that I want to be bronze. Then all that will get a wash with some Agrax Earthshade. Then to highlight the straps on the weapons, I'm going to use a 50-50 mix of Gal Vorbak Red and Matte White. To highlight the Screaming Bell, once that has dried, I've used some Hash Hut Copper. Then I'm going to give all the metal, including the silver, a quick dry brush and a very careful dry brush with some Stormhost Silver. Then any red areas are going to be painted with Khorne Red, which will all get a wash with some Carroburg Crimson. Once that wash is dried, I'm going to use a 50-50 mix of Khorne Red and Wazdakka Red for the first highlight. And this will be followed by a second highlight of Wazdakka Red just by itself. I'm then going to paint any skulls with some Morghast Bone, which I'll wash with some Agrax Earthshade. I'm then going to paint any studs or bolts or anything like that that's sticking out of the skin and on the shirts with some Iron Hand Steel. The bottoms of the tassels on the champion are going to get painted with some Retributor armor. And to give them a little bit of shading, I'll use some Reichland Flesh Shade. Once the wash on the skulls have dried, I'm going to use a 50-50 mix of Morghast Bone and Wraithbone for the first highlight. And this will be followed by Wraithbone just by itself. Just going to use a quick bit of Abaddon Black to paint the eyes. And then I'm going to paint any tubings with some Skavenblight Dinge. And this will be followed by a highlight of Stormvermin Fur. Then all the concrete they're standing on will be painted with some Dawnstone, which will be washed with some Agrax Earthshade. After you've added texture paint, mine is Astro Granite, I'm then going to dry brush everything with some Carrick Stone just to highlight all those tiny little lumps and bumps. This also includes the stone and rocks that they're standing on. Then finally I'm going to use some Blood for the Blood God to add a little bit of gore to their chainswords. After all, they are part of Khorne and the paint is literally called Blood for the Blood God, so I would be a fool not to use it. I'm just going to quickly stroke them in the way that the chainsaw blades would be wearing, so it looks like the blood is flicked up onto the actual device. There we go. Once that blood has dried, that's these guys finished. I've got to say, I did enjoy painting these guys. I always like Khorne. I'm not a massive fan of painting Chaos, but these guys were quite relaxing and quite fun to paint. They're also pretty quick as well, coming in around about 7 hours to paint the lot. If you want to see more videos like this, I've got plenty more paint guides on the channel. We've got 40k, Marvel Crisis Protocol, Star Wars Shatterpoint, all that sort of good stuff, some Marvel Zombie stuff on there. And if you want to see that, give the channel a subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you again, and goodbye for now.